Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Jeff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, and hey, man, we are making it through the doldrums of the summer. Every time we do a podcast, Adam, we are that much closer to the start of training camp for the Eagles, July 26th. And I'm already hearing people, I've been out down at the shore, I've been out in public, I've seen some people who are listeners, and they're always like, man, I can't, football needs to start now. It just,
exactly.
We're
at that point. Absolutely. We're at that point. We're just over 2 weeks. In fact, the Raiders and Jaguars, so when we're in the Hall of Fame game, the Raiders, they're the first team that fully reports on July 20th. That's the earliest of all the teams.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a Raider fan, at least you're going to get a game in early August in Canton. As long as nothing happens with the field. Remember the time they canceled the game?
God, I remember that. Yeah.
Like 10 years ago. Yeah. Can't believe it's been that long. But anyway, so that's the Jaguars. And by the way, 2 head coaches there, new ones. And Josh McDaniels with the Raiders and Doug Peterson with the Jaguars.
Definitely. So I listen, as much as I love my job and I love doing the podcast and I love everything about being, an Eagles insider and reporter, I don't like to rush the summer. I got to be honest with you. Even though I wish that the mini camp schedule was the old way, because it would help from a content standpoint. And, when we get to this part, we have to sort of scratch and claw a little bit more. But I'm not like that type of guy who wakes up and wishes like the start of training camp was tomorrow. I like my summers. I like spending some time with the family. I like being down at the shore. I like taking some trips, and I'm not trying to rush these next, what do we got, 3 weeks before the start of training camp. But it is cool to know that it's really only, 4 weeks and things will get going. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, look, we both watch the Phillies religiously. So I'm deep into the Phillies, minutia. I'm roster changing. You know how crazy I am with rosters. When Jeff and I did Jeff was hosting on Fanatic, 3-4 Ben Simmons' first year? Was it?
Yeah, that was Ben Simmons' first year.
4 or 5 years ago. We were into the summer league. I was just going to talk about the Eagles. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't we talk Sixers for 2 hours?
Yeah, so we had this idea because it was smack dab in the heart of the beginning of Sixers, end of the summer, sort of. Yeah, starting to transition to fall. But so I think training camp was going to begin soon for the Sixers. And for people who don't know, Adam has such great equipment at home that he doesn't have to come in to the studio when he does his interviews. He just sounds like he's in the studio, but he's got his home studio. But he came in to the Fanatic studio that day to do 2 hours with me. The first at least 45 minutes were dedicated to the Sixers preseason going on, and Adam had his whole like who's going to make it, who's not going to make it, what the rotation
summer league though.
Be. Yeah, it was summer league. That's right. It was summer league stuff. Yeah. You were really into it.
And I'm like, I'm going through the roster because it's like we do because people love projecting the Eagles roster. Totally get it. It's fun to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And to see how many you get right. If you're doing it now, obviously you don't have as good as information you're going to have at the end of August and early September.
Mm-hmm.
So we were projecting, okay, here's your backup 1, backup 2, backup 3. But the minutia of it, this is what. So this show today, we're going to get into some lists we have because people love lists.
Yes,
it's kind of thing you do in July. In fact, that's what talk radio does a lot around the country. Is they go over lists of the teams that they're following in their market. And this particular show is Eagles related. So we've got some lists there. We'll go over, as we told you a couple of weeks ago, what Tartt's contract would look like. He's finally signed it. It was kind of odd that it took a little longer. Not that there's anything going on, but we'll get into that. We had a retirement of a former Eagle and some other stuff going on. So we'll discuss it.
We will. I'm looking forward to getting into that, the retirement of the former Eagle, the contracts, and again, giving our kind of choices for a few candidates in certain categories. And that'll do it for this podcast. So we like to try to give as much info to our listeners and viewers as we possibly can regarding future ITB stuff. We've talked about the post-game concept that we are trying to bring, a post-game show for this coming season. We're still working through that. And then we've got, I would say, 2 to 3 other projects that would involve more ITB material, more ITB guests, including Adam and I, of course, that we're working on. And I would like to say by the start of camp, hope to be able to make some announcements on it. But just know that we are still looking to give more content and more people and more analysis and continue to do. Oh, we have a good idea for the pregame show that we're trying to work through, a new segment involving a whiteboard and a little X and O breakdown. So that'll be some fun stuff too for the pregame show that we're always looking to improve. So just hang with us and we'll have our announcements when we can make them. But while you do that, please continue to visit InsideTheBirds.com for all of our latest stories from ourselves and Andrew DeCecco. Please continue to subscribe to our newsletter. New Edition doing a great job with that. We're always answering your Ask ITB questions there. So make sure you check out and subscribe to the newsletter. Tell your friends, tell your family members, tell your enemies. So all they have to do is sign up. They can go to the website or in most of the description boxes to find the link to sign up for our newsletter. And we had a banner TikTok recently that went over 1,400 views, even though we only have about 70 to 90 followers so far. So must have went viral somehow. So great job by Jesse, our intern, doing that. And look forward to putting together a few more. So if you're not doing it yet, follow us on TikTok and Instagram, both at Inside the Birds.
Well, let me ask you a question. If
Yes.
we run into each other at training camp, can't we do a TikTok where we do some kind of jig or a dance?
We can, but we won't.
Come on, man.
You want to do one? I'll do one.
That's a laugh, man. Maybe
I don't know.
we'll,
we might lose followers and lose.
Maybe we'll have a couple beers before we go. Okay.
That's a good idea. But no, that does raise a good point. If you and I are at training camp, we can certainly do something for our TikTok audience that might involve, say, analysis instead of dancing or both. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Or an IG for sure, because we also have an Instagram account.
Yep.
We certainly could do a short, a minute and a half little wrap up there. Why not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would look forward to do that. That would be fun. So again, Inside the Birds on TikTok, make sure you find us and become a follower. All right. So we've got some good news regarding the Eagles that we'll get to first. One, I mean, we've known for a while that Jaquiski Tartt had agreed to I know. I always pronounce it the way it's written, but it's Jaquiski.
I know. Jaquiski, yeah.
And his nickname is Kwaski, right? Kwaski?
That's what I was told. Yeah, Kwaski.
Like it. Kwaski Tartt. All right. So we now finally have the terms of the contract, which sort of help explain the role a little bit. So go ahead, Adam, with the terms of the deal.
Yeah, our initial report was correct. 1 year, 2.5 million. But it's funny. Anthony Harris got the same upside to 2.5 million, but Harris is going to make more money this season. Where with Anthony Harris, he gets $2 million base, 1 million is fully guaranteed at signing. But that's the only guarantee. There's no signing bonus in Harris's contract. So he makes 1 million no matter what happens this season. Mm-hmm. To get the 2.5 million, the upside, he's got to play a certain amount of snaps. Mm-hmm. And I believe there's some other stuff in it, but I know that he's got to get a certain amout of snaps in.
Okay. Now that's Kwaski. I mean, that's
no, that's Harris. That's Harris. Yeah. That's Harris. How I wanted to compare the contracts. Now Harris's guarantee is better. Mm-hmm. Kwaski Tartt got 500 grand fully guaranteed at signing. His upside to get to 2.5 million is 60% playtime. Now, that plays into his role. What we understand is he'll be the backup to Harris. Okay. So how does he get on the field more? Well, he competes in training camp. Yes, Harris is the starter. Maybe they make the snaps 70-30%, 70%, 30%. Now, what if they play big nickel, which they really haven't played before? But what if they decide now, because this guy is over 6'1", 6 foot 1/3. He's around 220. This guy's something they haven't had here before, a big safety. Mm-hmm. And he's got better range than you think for a guy as big as he is. He's played some linebacker before. He's played in the box. Obviously, he's been mostly a box player.
Yeah, he plays like a linebacker. Certainly.
Right. He could play free. He's played some free safety before. He's got great positional value in terms of what he can do, but he's 30. He's had a lot of injuries. That's why he didn't have a lot of leverage here. When you sign before the draft, you have leverage. When you sign after the draft, the clubs have most of the leverage. Yep. But he's got a chance to win here. He's reunited with his former teammate from Sanford and Bradbury. From what we understand, he definitely gave him the thumbs up. based on the early goings of what he knows about the Eagles and the atmosphere, the culture, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes in here as the best safety was on the market. Eagles got him, but he's going to be a backup, at least initially. I haven't heard that they're going to open up the job, but I do believe that he could push for a pretty good role here. And guy's a good football player. You just have to understand he's in the twilight of his career. Maybe he's got 2 years left in him. So if he plays well and he stays relatively healthy, maybe they want to bring him back for another year. But right now he's here to provide depth and competition. And he's going to have a role in training camp. He's clearly going to be the third safety.
Yeah.
Just think about this. If they didn't sign him, where were they going at safety for depth?
Kevon Wallace and Jared Maiden. Yeah, no, it was a good signing. It made a lot of sense, especially if you do want to play that big nickel, which they haven't played, and I'm not sure that they would rather play that than more dime. We have to figure out what Jonathan Gannon wants to do, because more teams these days, depending on their structure, would like to get more corners on the field if they're matching up with more wide receivers, or at least more coverage got people. And Tartt, I wouldn't necessarily call him a great coverage safety. I mean, he can play the free, and he can play the box. I don't know if he's ever been like a Tyrann Mathieu man-to-man, come down on the slot type of guy.
We'll co-sell that. We'll
yeah, we will. We'll get that. Yeah. But it's really good insurance. And of course, if Anthony Harris's play, if he's injured or if his play slips, then Jaquiski can kind of get in there, and hopefully his presence also sort of, I don't know, ignites a little bit of a fire, if you want to say, under Kevon Wallace to do better. I mean, and I'm not trying to say Kevon Wallace has not. Maybe Kevon Wallace just can't physically do more than what he's already doing. I do not know. That's something we'd have to, ask
I mean, yes, he had an injury. Wallace did before in his first 2 years, and plus he's more of a box safety where Tartt has some versatility. Mm-hmm. This guy was a starter in the Super Bowl, and Tartt and Harris are both 30. Harris is maybe 4 months older than Tartt. Mm-hmm. We know Harris had the big year with the turnovers, but that was sort of a fluke. Right. But Tartt for many years has been known for his physical play and his presence. And the guy was there for the turnaround with the Niners. And he's in the twilight of his career. And if they don't have him, you got Wallace, who we just talked about. Jared Maiden was an undrafted free agent. He's a complete wild card. Nobody knows anything about him yet. Yeah, I forgot to mention Andre Sachre and I say that because they actually played him at one point last year when they had a few injuries. Week 17, I think he's. I thought it was even no. Week 17. It was even earlier than that. I can't remember. But didn't he start? Yes, he wound up starting in a game. I'm trying to think. Did Maddox get hurt at nickel, and he might have played a few snaps there? But he got himself on the field in defense. Definitely did. Played a little bit of a hybrid role there sometime during the middle of the year. And he is a really good special teamer. So I can't discount the fact that he might be in the mix if there were an injury as well. He did start. I was right in week 17. Him and that was the Cowboys game, right? That was you're talking about the last game of the year. Yeah, that was the last game. I'm talking about he got in on defense. I think it was against the Jets. He played defensive snaps earlier than week 17 because somebody had to come off the field for a little bit. Gotcha. Yeah. But his start was we never did hear how he graded out in that game. Mm-hmm. Well, and the strange thing is, wasn't the Cowboys? Didn't the Cowboys shocked everyone? They played their starters quite a bit, and I could have sworn did they have their playoff seeding set? We know they clinched the division. So. I think that they knew they were going to. I think they knew they were in the same vicinity. They were either going to be one or the other, and whoever they played, it wasn't going to be matter all that much. So I don't think they really cared at that point where it's not like they had an opportunity to get the number 1 seed. So that was they definitely didn't. Yeah. No. Yeah. I was trying to look up what game he played defensive snaps in before week 16, but there are a couple of games where he had tackles. He had tackle in the first Dallas game, Kansas City. I think it was the Chargers game, Adam. He had 5 tackles in that game. So he must have filled in for somebody, and he played Detroit and LA back-to-back games. He played 19 defensive snaps against the Lions, and then 11 defensive snaps against the Chargers. So somebody must have been banged up at the safety position
in that 2-week span. Maybe it was Andre, or maybe it was Rodney. I don't remember, but either way, or maybe they were just going with big nickel for the matchups there. So
Yeah, I don't know.
he got to play.
It's, that was a while back. Yeah, it's interesting that he got snaps though, because maybe, just maybe, he won't be just a special teams player. He could give us some snaps. Remember, they gave him a little bit of a guarantee in his re-signing. Not much, but they liked him enough to give him a guarantee. They didn't have to.
Right.
So that was good that they did that. So they obviously see something in him. But my whole point about this was because the rosters improved so greatly, and obviously we have to see how they play. But just on what it looks like visually on paper, it looks like a roster that is a top 10 roster in the National Football League in terms of just positional, what they have. They've upgraded receiver significantly, linebacker significantly in talent.
Yep.
Number 2 corner significantly, with Bradbury over Nelson. Edge rusher Reddick over whoever. He's just
Gennard Avery. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Avery, we lamented that he wasn't even given a chance. Really.
Yeah, that's true. He came off the field. I don't know who were their 2 pass rushers. There was Josh Sweat and who the heck? Who am I not thinking? Oh, Derek Barnett. Yeah,
yeah. Right. Who was really? I still cannot believe they re-signed him. They know something we don't. I mean, this is they obviously, as much as we made fun of Sirianni, some of the proclamations he's come up with, which whatever he said, the front office didn't agree with it because they didn't go out and do it. Like the Watkins situation, that got thrown back in his face because they made the trade. They tried to trade for Ridley, that didn't work. They tried to trade Allen Robinson, that didn't work, and then they made the home run trade for AJ Brown. But now we'll get into Watkins in a minute because we know they like him, but sometimes what Sirianni says is not reality. It's what maybe he thinks initially or he'd like to believe. But I just don't see with Derek Barnett. I'm still puzzled.
Yes. Well, just think about this. After Brandon Graham went out last year, this is to your point about where they've upgraded, right? Their top 3 edge rushers on the totem pole were Josh Sweat, Derek Barnett, and Ryan Kerrigan really had to play, step in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Now it's Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, and either it's going to be Brandon Graham or Derek Barnett, one of those 2, or they're going to split. But that sounds a lot better than option A was.
And we'll see what it means. We were told pretty strongly that Graham looked terrific. It's not even ahead of schedule anymore. It's like, wow, can't believe he looks this good. Can't wait to see what he looks like in training camp. When you ratchet up the competition and the speed.
Yep. When
it's more intense.
Yep.
We didn't really notice him when we were there. I mean, I wasn't looking. In fact, I don't even know if he worked that day when we were there. But based on what we've heard, whatever they let him do, he looked exceptional.
Right.
Now, could he? We'll see. This is a major injury at an advanced age. Guys typically don't get better in the third. Remember Greg Ellis, who played for the Cowboys?
I do. Yeah.
So I talked to him this is obviously many years ago, at the Pro Bowl, and we were talking about injuries, and I said, "Hey, did you tear your Achilles years ago?" He goes, "Oh yeah, not only did I tear it, it was the worst injury I've ever had. It took me nearly 2 years to get back." I'm like, "Really?"
Wow.
And he explained why. The explosion when you're out of your stance to feel it. Look, these aren't guys who are 190 pounds. You're talking 240, 250.
Yeah.
And Ellis was a little bigger than Graham. So that's what I'm looking for. When we get to training camp, I want to see this explosion.
It just makes it all the more amazing how Brandon Brooks came back from 2 of them, 2 separate Achilles injuries, and was basically as good as, when he wasn't hurt, he was as good as anybody at that position. And then I think Jason Peters tore the same Achilles twice because he had fallen off his scooter thing, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he came back and he was Jason Peters. So that was pretty good too.
The human will for professional athletes, like you and I sprain our ankle, or you hurt your hamstring, right? We're like, oh man, like, are you still dealing with that hamstring injury?
It's not 100% recovered. There are I can run, I can do anything I want, but there are times where I'll start to feel a little bit of a knot in there if I, when I'm
Not,
running. Like
yes.
the other
Yeah.
day, it was very hot out and I was running, so I tried to hydrate as best as possible. But when it's that hot, you can't control it, and I could feel a little bit of a tightening in the hand in that area. So
Right. And that you don't, and the layman like us, we don't have access to world-class facilities or
correct,
trainers.
correct.
And this is why guys like BG, and you made the Lane with the ankle, and all these players are able to come back a lot sooner. But Father Time, Graham is now 34.
Amazing, right? Amazing.
So good luck to him. We'll see. This to me is a storyline. We'll have a couple things that we're going to talk about today, but we'll hit the storylines the week of, right before they report on the 27th, 26th.
Yeah, July 26th or 7th. Yeah, one of those.
26th. Yeah. We'll have our storylines. Will probably be different from most people's. I look at it a little differently. I know you do. Everyone could talk about the quarterback. That's obvious. But it's the non-obvious storylines. Guys who have to come here with a lot to prove, or coaches.
Yeah.
It's not just Gannon.
I agree.
Right. But it's not just Gannon. Yes, he's number one. I get it. People are wanted to rip him apart. We saw what Jim Schwartz where people were. I would say the venom towards Jonathan Gannon might be a little worse than towards Schwartz. I know it's hard to believe.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's true that there has been,
pretty strong. So, but there are a lot of other stories for training camp, which we'll get into as you get closer. And we'll drop this one here. We just talked to John DeFilippo, the former quarterbacks coach for the Eagles. John's coming back very soon. We're not going to tell you exactly what it is.
To ITB, just to be clear.
For us, yeah. He's not coming back coaching yet, not this year. But no, he's going to do some for us. And it's going to be incredible. That's all I'm going to tell you.
I agree with you on that. Let's talk about the other contract. Cam Jurgens, it's sort of routine, but for whatever, you can explain this better than I can, probably. Second round picks are always slower to sign than first round picks or anybody else after that. Is there something about the language of a contract for a second rounder that it takes a while?
There's been something really weird with third round picks for many years.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was a weird quirk in the third round pick contract. So, like, there's an agent you and I know who always wants to be the last to sign. Yes, he knows the deals fall into order. They're general, similar structure. He goes, here's the problem. Because here's the difference. He goes, the media doesn't understand. Signing bonus deferrals.
Right.
Where the club wants to defer this so much next year and this much the third year. I want it all in the second year, or I want it all in the first year.
Right.
Certain payouts they want at certain time, where the club will haggle over that. That stuff's important to agents and the players. Sometimes they don't care. If the player cares, hey, man, if I could get all this year, I need the money. I want my signing bonus money this year. I don't want it all deferred or some of it deferred. That stuff's worth fighting for. And until the club gives in, now they're not going to hold the player out. They'll get the guy there by training camp.
Right.
But with Jurgens, his agency, Rep One, has great relationship with the Eagles in terms of working together on many deals. I mean, you're talking about decades of
about Carson Wentz and Arcega-Whiteside and Nate Sudfeld and they're countless people.
They picked up Darren Sproles. They have Dave Phipp, who's now with the special teams coach for the Lions, formerly of the Eagles. They've got Jurgens now, Dallas Goedert.
That's right, Goddard. Yep.
I'm trying to.
I thought there was another wide receiver from there that they had. Maybe it's not with the team anymore. But
they had Kevin Curtis. Actually, back in the day, they had Kevin Curtis.
There you go. That's the one.
Who signed a nice deal, and he still lived off that Lions game, which in those awful jerseys. Yeah.
All right. So Jurgens is signed. It's your typical 4-year deal. It's done, and you don't have to worry about that anymore.
We'll look into if there's any differences. We'll look into it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll find out. But it was just important because he was the last one.
Yeah, that's it. The whole class is done.
Yeah. All right. The last thing we wanted to get to from a newsworthy standpoint is the retirement of a former Super Bowl champion Eagle. Beau Allen has called it quits. He called it quits last week. He played for the Eagles. Then he went to Tampa Bay. Followed in the footsteps of Vinny Curry, I think, right after the Super Bowl year. He signed with Tampa Bay after Vinny got there, or maybe he was first and then Vinny got there. And then he was technically with New England, right? But he had an injury.
Oh, he signed a contract.
And that's why I say technically, but he never really played for them.
Never played for him.
Even though he thanked them in his retirement thing, it was a very odd, kind of relationship there between the player and the team.
Where I don't think Brady, at his separation from the Patriots, he left somebody out. I don't know if he
left the Patriots out when he retired. He didn't say anything about
okay. Or his first, his 6-week retirement. He left maybe he left the Patriots out. I don't know. but I know he slighted someone, whether it was on purpose or not. I just thought it was comical when you told me, he said, "Did you see that Beau Allen thanked the Patriots?" So I was like, did he really? He didn't play for them.
He really did.
But he signed a nice contract. It was I reported at the time, I think it was 2 for $8 million. The guarantee. This is unbelievable. I'm glad you brought this up. You would not believe this, and this makes sense because it's Matt Patricia. I don't know if Patricia knew that the Patriots were his competition. It was between the Patriots and the Lions for Beau Allen. Patricia wanted him really bad. He's incredibly strong anchor against the run. He's just strong as hell.
Right. Yeah,
and that's why
very and he had a little bit more burst than you would think for a guy who was who looked a little bit like a nose
collapse a pocket. Yeah, he could collapse a pocket. He he was incredibly strong. Why was he only a 7th round pick though?
I don't know. I mean, he probably did not test very well. And you go to Wisconsin, you're a 327-pound dude, and you're just basically regarded as a run stopper. I would imagine that's why. But I fell into that trap, Adam. When Jim Schwartz became. Remember, he was drafted by Chip Kelly, who ran a 3.4. So Beau Allen made sense as sort of a backup nose to compete. At the time, Chip's 3.4 or Billy Davis's 3.4 was hybrid. It wasn't a traditional 3.4. Like his nose tackle was Benny Logan, who was not like 350 pounds, right?
Long arms.
Long arms. And Damian Square was the backup. Another guy not 350 pounds.
Square.
Right, I know. Can you believe that? Blast from the past.
Yeah.
So they bring in Beau Allen, and he makes a team, and he doesn't play a whole lot early on in his career. I think it was mainly maybe special teamers. He only played a small amount, but he did make the team and played. That was good. So when Jim Schwartz with his wide 9-4-3 upfield scheme came in 2016, that was Beau's 3rd year. I tweeted early, sometime in the off season. I remember this specifically, that I didn't know if there was a lineman more unfit for Jim Schwartz's scheme than Beau Allen, because everything we knew about Jim Schwartz was undersized defensive tackles and ends who fly up the field. And that really wasn't Beau Allen's game. And you know what? Beau proved me wrong. He may not have been a normal fit for Jim Schwartz's scheme, but not only did he make it, but by 2017, he played 43% of the snaps, Adam. That's amazing. Third DT.
He was the 3rd D tackle. Wasn't he their 3rd D tackle?
He was. It was basically Fletch. It was
who was that guy?
It was Tim Jernigan. Tim Jernigan.
Right.
And Fletch.
Oh, Destiny Vallejo. That was the guy. Destiny Vallejo.
Destiny.
4th.
Right. But when it was Jernigan and Fletch as the starters, and basically Beau Allen was 2nd team interior lineman versus the run, because when they wanted to rush the passer, remember they would kick Jernigan off the field and move Graham inside and then bring Chris Long to the outside. But still, just by being a 2nd team run stopping guy, he got it. And remember, they blew out a lot of teams that year, so he got to play 3rd and 4th quarters a lot, and he wound up playing 43% of the snaps, and he was good at what he did. So a lot of credit to Beau. He was a big part of that. I think the Eagles had the #1 rush defense that year. If not, they were top 5, definitely. They were very good against the run that year.
I mean, they had whether Curry would line up inside, BG would line up inside.
Yep.
And then if they did, Barnett would come in. Long was such a great signing. Beau Allen was their top backup defensive tackle. That's it. Talk about a rotation and roles personified. My goodness gracious, they had it all down.
Right.
They had it all down. It was quite the rotation. I totally forgot about how good that D line was. Like, we knew in the end it was good. Of course, they couldn't get to Brady. Brady got over 500 yards in the Super Bowl, but yet one play. They made one play.
It was amazing. It wasn't even about. It was not only were they good, but think about how deep they were. I mean, like with Cox and and
Jernigan.
Jernigan were an excellent interior tandem. And then, of course, your edge rushers were BG and Vinny. And Vinny was mostly a first and second down player because he was more of an edge rusher who was good at setting the edge and stopping the run. And then when they needed to rush the passer, they would bring in, again, move Graham into, take Jernigan off, move Graham inside, and then play Chris Long. When they needed the extra run stopper, you were talking about Beau Allen. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 guys right there. And then I'm discounting, there were 2 other players on that line who I think were important to the team. I'm trying to remember who else. Who was the fourth DT? You said
Stephen Means was only special teams.
He was.
That's
you know what? He was a pretty good player, Stephen Means.
Great special teams player and a good dude, right? But Destiny Vaio barely played, and Elijah Qualls never made it. He was on the team, but he never really played.
Right.
Who else was there?
I'm trying to think there because I remember saying that they were like at least 7 deep on the defensive line.
Well, they were. You just gave it out. Curry, Jernigan, Cox, Graham are 4. Barnett's 5. Allen 6, and Long is 7.
6, which is it's tough to beat. That's a lot of guys.
And Ryan.
Barnett. I didn't mention Barnett. I'm sorry.
Oh, Barnett. Yeah, that was his rookie season.
Yeah, that was so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 deep. Cox, Jernigan, BG, Vinny, Barnett, Beau Allen, and I can't even read this name that I just.
The 3 backups
and Long and Chris Long. Right.
Yeah.
That's great. Tremendous.
Long still had juice left. He still could play. Like that was an excellent signing because remember the Patriots cut him.
Yep.
And people were running because the guy even play anymore. He just had won a Super Bowl, but he not only could play, he's the perfect third end. I thought Kerrigan. I was wrong. I thought Kerr would work with Kerrigan last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's to the point. I still don't know what happened. We know he broke his hand. That I understand. But he just, whether he wasn't used right, he wasn't comfortable with the role.
Mm-hmm.
He was not the pass rusher we expected. Like, boy, Chris Long was. My gosh. Like, that was the perfect role for him.
Right. So one of the reasons people are excited about this year's defense and defensive line is that I don't know if I don't think you can compare it to 2017. Not yet. But when you look at your top 6, you have Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave. That's a good 3 right there. BG 4, Milton Williams 5, Derek Barnett 6. Am I missing
Jordan Davis?
Dude, I didn't even say Josh Sweat. How about that? All right, let me redo that.
Wait. Well, let's just look at the reality.
And Jordan Davis, right.
Go ahead. So they have. We're going to count Reddick as an edge rusher, whether he's standing up and playing with his hand. He's going to stand up mostly, almost all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But just as D lineman, we know that Reddick technically is a linebacker, but he's going to be an edge rusher.
Sure.
Just in terms of pressure players, Graham, Cox, Hargrave, Barnett, Reddick, Sweat, Jordan Davis, they think it's got upside as a pass rusher. Milton Williams has a little bit. This could be an incredible rotation.
It really could be. And I look at Milton because we were talking about Beau Allen. I feel like Milton Williams, they're different players because Milton's a little more versatile. He can play end and inside, but from a snap and roll perspective, I think Williams has an opportunity to kind of be like Beau Allen as that third DT to probably play 43% of the time, maybe a little bit more if he winds up playing some end in some 3-4 looks. You know, it all depends on what they
if he plays end.
Yeah.
Well, you mean in a 43 he'd play end. He wouldn't play.
No,
I don't
3-4 he'd be 5.
Milton Williams?
Yeah, because think about a 3-4. You have a nose tackle, and you're usually.
I know,
flanked.
But his arms are so short. I
how is short arms going to make you a 4-3 DN, but not a 3-4 DN?
No. But it's just what you're looking for because your responsibilities are different when you're 34 end.
Right, that's true. You're usually more of a run defender as a 3-4 D end, and I think that Milton's got more burst than great run D, but I'm talking about second string, so you can't be choosy about your.
The bottom line is they're going to.
Yeah,
right. You're right. They can't. They'll figure it out. But just as a rotation for a defensive line and the front 7, and we're going to get into that in a minute about what some of the guys that we think could stand out and all that. But this has got the up. This is what I miss going to 17. Because we didn't know about how much Chris Long had left, and clearly he had a lot left.
Correct.
we weren't really sure about Derek Barnett and what they allowed him to do in year one. He did a good job.
Yeah.
Fletcher was still a lead player. They had such a great, all 7 of those guys contributed pretty well. Beau Allen and his ability to stop the run, and Blow plays up in the backfield. This group, and I know Cox is in this twilight of his career. He's still something left. Hargrave's terrific. Brandon Graham, we have to wait and see. So far, so good, but we got training camp yet. Sweat's really good. Milton Williams was really good as a rookie. Now we got to see what year 2. Jordan Davis, the thing with him is, it's just learning the techniques of this defense, whatever it's going to morph into. He's a rookie. He's got to learn how to play at this level. He's got to keep his weight down.
Yep.
But the upside of this front, pretty good.
I totally agree. I think the one thing that might separate the 2017 rotation from this one is you have a lot of guys here that are sort of learning how to fit into new spots, and Jordan Davis will be one of them, and Derek Barnett might be one of them. Josh Sweat might be sort of standing up more. Who knows? Like, we have to figure out what they're going to be doing, but that's really it. I mean, from a talent standpoint, and Cox is a little bit older, and Cox and BG. So obviously in 2017, they were much more in their prime than they are now. But with Sweat and Reddick going into their prime, and Hargrave in his prime, I think this is pretty good. This is obviously the strong point of the team, and it has a chance to be really, really good if things, if they stay healthy and things go the right way.
And it helps your back end, because their pressure numbers were not good last year.
Right.
There's no excuses here with this front. No excuse with the talent level that the front office assembled here.
Definitely agree.
They've got to get after it. Like, they've got there's just no excuses with this roster. I haven't been bullish on this team in the years, but I just feel like this roster is the best they put together in many years, and there's a lot of upside to this team. We'll see if they could get there, but there's certainly a lot of talent.
I always say, when you are strong in the offensive and defensive lines, strong in the trenches, you're going to be in every game and have a chance to win it. And then it comes down to your coaching, your quarterback play, some of your special teams, and that can tilt the scales in a big way. But either way, congrats to Beau Allen. He was a fun Eagle to cover, really nice guy, had wound up winning a Super Bowl championship. So good for him in that regard. And I wouldn't be super. Beau has personality, so it wouldn't shock me if he kind of showed up as a broadcaster, maybe back in Wisconsin or college or pro. Yeah, maybe we'll try to get him on, because he's really a good dude.
He has some very funny older pictures from earlier in his career and also from college. You could find them there. I'll just let people find them and laugh without giving it away. It's kind of funny. But really a really good. What a story of a 7th round pick. It's just so rare. I know the Eagles have had some success with undrafted free agents and later round picks, but to be that much of an impact. Look, Corey Clement, obviously that year, undrafted free agent. They would not have won a Super Bowl without him. Think about an undrafted free agent.
I know. It's crazy.
You can't make it up. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into some of the other things we wanted to talk about. We wanted to go through some sort of our lists of important players coming up, some guys that what we're expecting, some guys that we're going to project a little bit. Before we do that, I want to pause real quick for a word from our friends from Aura, who are going to tell you about the importance of your online safety. Hey, it's Jeff Mosher. Did you know in 2020, 49 million Americans were victims of identity theft? It ended up costing them a combined $56 billion. It's not just happening to people who fall for phishing scams or use bad passwords. 37 billion records in 2022 alone got hacked, from major social media sites to national grocery store chains, cryptocurrency exchanges, pharmacies, and phone and internet providers. Look, unless you want to give up the internet for good, preventing your personal information from leaking could be out of your control. That's why we're excited about Aura, sponsors of this video. Aura's app uses AI and machine learning to protect your identity online. You tell Aura what email addresses, account numbers, and phone numbers you want monitored. Their algorithms scour the dark web, data brokers, public records, and alert you to any criminal activity fast. Aura's app features a VPN that encrypts your browsing history and allows you to stay anonymous online. Also has antivirus software that blocks malware and viruses before they infect your devices. Someone becomes a victim of identity fraud every 14 seconds. Don't be the next one. Let Aura do the hard work of protecting your identity. Adam and I were shocked to see how many times Aura found our personal information on the dark web. If you sign up for a free trial, let us know how many times Aura found your information for you. Try Aura for 2 weeks free and see if your personal identifiable information has leaked to the dark web. You can start your free trial at aura.com/insidethebirds. Protecting your personal data doesn't have to be hard. Try 14 days for free. That's aura.com/insidethebirds. Thanks to Aura for sponsoring this video. All right. Thanks to Aura for sponsoring the video there. And let's also get into what we were going to into. So, Adam, I'm going to let you kind of introduce this segment a little bit. We're going to go through some players and do some projections. So how do you want to start with that?
So I've debated using this list for years, and I just think everyone loves lists. Everybody says, who are the most important players on the Eagles? We obviously know the quarterback. It starts with Jalen Hurts, but who are the secondary players who could help take this team to the next level? Not only be a playoff team, which they were last year, where they got in. Hey, look, no one expected it. They weren't very good, but they got in. They had a nice schedule. They closed the season well. They got in. Good job by them. Who's going to help them build on that and take them to the next level?
Okay.
I've talked about AJ Brown. Obviously, since the trade, we've talked about him. I can't emphasize this point enough how important he is to the success of this football team. Quez Watkins now, we'll get into him a little bit later. But when you look at what he's able to do and winning off the line of scrimmage, see, the problem that the Eagles have had, Cosell pointed this out a lot over the years on our show and when I talked to Greg privately and sit in and watch tape with him. It's too many times over the years, the Eagles didn't have good enough receivers who play with physicality, would get thrown off their routes, physically not strong enough. AJ Brown's the opposite of that. He wins. He's a leverage player. He's like a tight end playing wide receiver in a way. He's not tall. He's just around between 6 and 6'1", but he's built like a brick house, and he's unbelievably competitive. We've said for the last 3 years, really 2 years ago when they were really immature in the receiver room, that they needed an alpha in that room. Now, Devontae Smith's a quiet alpha, but AJ Brown is an absolute ass kicker leader. I'm telling you, this guy's major. He's got a major importance to the success, whatever that is. Whether they win the division, whether they're a wild card, because I'm going to say, like, if everybody's healthy, there's no way they're not at least a wild card. I'm probably going to pick them to win the NFC East when we turn our picks in the end of August. That's kind of where I would lean now if I had to turn it in. But I just believe AJ Brown is a difference maker. And to be honest with you, as much as I was an Allen Robinson fan for many years, he pales in comparison to what AJ Brown could do. I'm just sorry. I mean, Robinson's a good football player. He's not
they're different. They're different players. That's not even different. Right. I don't even interpret that as disrespectful to Allen Robinson, because Allen Robinson could go get the ball in a contested catch in a way that AJ Brown doesn't necessarily do. There have been some examples of it, but not consistently. Sure. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
And Allen Robinson's done like one of the all-time jobs with winning and playing really well with not so great quarterbacks, like Bortles.
God,
yeah. Who, by the way, that year, Robinson was my breakout player of the year. And cause I was at training camp and he looked amazing. And for the guy who didn't run well in the 40, he could really go get it. He's a super high character guy, very competitive. But AJ Brown is special. And I hope because I know the fans only get the one practice at the link to watch him. And I don't know how much he'll play, if at all.
Probably won't even be out there, to be honest.
Right. But you'll see the reports from the reporters, the beat guys who go there every day.
Yeah.
I'm sure they know this already, at least if they've done any reporting on this or checked on him. He's different from anyone they've had in that receiver room. That's no disrespect to anyone else there. He's kind of like, who was it in your time covering the Eagles as a beat guy? Either side of the football. Who do you remember who's super duper competitive and just could not be stopped?
Westbrook.
Okay.
Westbrook.
Was Westbrook as vocal as AJ Brown?
Didn't matter.
Okay.
To me, because what your point on your point is AJ Brown is a difference maker.
Yes.
Like a transformer to what you do offensively. because we're taking the quarterback out of it. That's obvious, right? So to me, when you looked at what the Eagles were able to do offensively when Brian Westbrook was on the field compared to how they had to do it when he was not on the field, it was like night and day. And yeah, I don't even think there's a better example of it than when they lost Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens was supposed to be the guy that got them over the hump to get to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
They got to the Super Bowl without T.O. in the playoffs. Not until the Super Bowl did he come back, but they won the games that they had trouble winning, more specifically the NFC Championship game, right? Because Westbrook then became the center point of the offense. He could not be covered in the passing game by a linebacker or a safety. And that was in 2004. Once you got to 2005, 6, and 7, as his role started to increase, really in 06 and 07 especially,
it's incredible.
It was like almost he had figured it out. It wasn't just raw talent at that point, or the ability to beat man coverage in the passing game. He started to run better. He started to see the lanes better, and his cutbacks were better. So he became the ultimate weapon for the Eagles. I mean, but in 2006 and 2007, there was him and LaDainian Tomlinson, and I don't really think there was anybody else up there that was
honestly
close.
I told B. West this. I said, man, dude, if you didn't have the knee problems, if I had a Hall of Fame vote, he was so dominant and so special. Mm-hmm. No one could stop him. Like you were just talking about it. He started to learn. He wasn't just trying to outrun guys. He started to learn moves, and because Andy said he was the smartest player ever coached. Just his vision of where to go, making unblocked defenders miss, just unbelievably special. And the thing that blew me away by B. West when we had him on last year, we were doing research for that show. I could not believe the touch totals. I think he had a 2 or 3 year run where he averaged like 20 some odd snaps, 20 some odd touches per game. I'm thinking, like, that's rarefied territory. Most running backs don't get anywhere close to 20 touches per game.
Right.
This guy's 5'8", 195, 195.
Yeah. No, that was, obviously T.O. was a difference maker. So I can't, but I didn't really cover him other than for a half a season.
I'll tell you what, T.O. is taller, is like 6'3"-ish.
Yep.
Close. AJ Brown's close. The T.O. is obviously a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. But T.O. didn't have AJ Brown has had pretty significant injury issues. But I'll tell you, if he plays 15 games out of 17, even 14 games, folks, you're going to be blown away by this guy. Everybody's going to want I think he's worn 11, right? I assume he's going to wear his 11 jersey.
Yeah.
He is. I'm a huge fan of his. Just from talking to Titans over the years and hear how much he meant to the front office and the coaching staff. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it killed John Robinson who drafted him. And when you get it right with a guy like that, I know they didn't want to pay it. They had an idea of what they wanted to pay him, and they just weren't going to go over it. Which, I mean, they had better. They had the player. They knew what the medicals looked like. They weren't going to go where the Eagles went. Okay,
right.
Well, their receiver course not very good without him.
Yeah.
And Eagles all of a sudden with Brown and Devontae Smith and Watkins and Pascal and a couple of, we'll see about Rager. Mm-hmm. Well, we've told he's had this is his best off season. We'll see if that means anything. At all. Yeah. But this group now all of a sudden could compete.
Yep. Yeah. And by the way, the reason why it's hard to find someone from the 2017 team for that is because we're not counting the quarterback, and we know Carson Wentz played at the most unreal level we've seen a quarterback play at in this town. But B, that team really was more about the sum of the individual, the sum of the parts and the individual, because there wasn't remember, no 1,000-yard receivers on that team, no 1,000-yard rushers on that team. Nobody on that team that's sort of had a Hall of Fame type of season. Zach Ertz was great, possession receiver. He did his job. Alshon was a good job of going and getting the ball downfield. Torrey Smith did a nice job of drawing flags and creating separation when need be, drawing defense.
Nelly?
Yeah. I mean, Nelly did a great job as a slot receiver, but he didn't have 1,000 yards. And there were only like 3 100-yard either rushing or receiving efforts the whole year. So they were just really the defensive line, as we talked about, and the offensive line were the difference makers for that team.
No better example that you just to fit in what you're talking about, the Corey Clement, like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Okay. LeGarrette Blount, J.J., Wendell Smallwood, Donnell Pumphrey, who the coaches were forced to play because he was a 4th-round pick. It's like when we interviewed Clement, what, in the spring of 18, was it? Spring of 18?
Yes.
His mindset, and this goes to anyone, folks, when you're going up against it, when you know that odds are stacked against you, don't worry about the depth chart. That's what he said. He didn't worry about it. He let his performance stand on its own.
Mm-hmm.
That was just, I mean, the catch in the back of the end zone of the Super Bowl, like, you can't make that up. And the throw by Foles, like, really?
It's unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
and I just watched it earlier this week. They just happened to, it's America's Game, where they go over each Super Bowl.
Uh-huh.
And they hear Nick Foles talk about it was double covered, but he saw an opening.
Mm-hmm.
And I get why.
Wasn't much of one, but he saw it.
I know. He threw it over. Oh, wait. Was Eric Rowe? Was Eric Rowe on Jeffrey on the which one
was that the in the back of the end zone?
Yes.
It was Eric Rowe. Yeah.
It was. Yeah, I thought it was Eric Rowe. That
wasn't a flea flicker, was it? No, I'm thinking of the championship game against that
was the Vikings game.
Right.
But you're right. It was such a lunch pail game. Chris Long at the end of his career. Vinny, who's grew up in the area, wasn't a great player, but it's a 2nd-round pick, certainly had value for them.
Yep.
Nigel Bradham as a tough guy.
Yeah.
Not a great football player, but it's a tough. This is the height of his career.
Patrick Robinson,
who was so bad the first week of training camp. People were like, "What a dumb signing that was."
Oops. He rose from the dead, as I like to say. I mean, he was
up. You just cannot, like. I would have to ask their front office people, have they ever gotten it so right? Everything, like, could you name a sign that didn't work out that year? Anything, draft anything.
No.
Oh, and Pumphrey missed. That was a bad miss. But
yeah, but it was irrelevant to they didn't need him at that point. So no,
and
there was not a single signing that just didn't work out.
Aziz Chatou did not work. No, I'm just kidding. He was on IR that he got a ring. He did.
He did. All right. So I will give you my candidate for the what we're talking about is the most important player to the offense, not named Jalen Hurts, right?
Yep.
All right. First, I'm going to tell you about to check out our friends at Freestone Farms if you want some awesome CBD at really reasonable prices. All right. You use the promo code ITB and you get 20% off at checkout on FreestoneFarmsCBD.com. So I'm going to go with a coach here, Adam, because knowing that Jalen Hurts, we can't use Jalen Hurts, but the offense really what it needs to be from what it was. I'm going to talk about Shane Steichen here because we know he's the play caller now. At least that's, what we're told officially. He's the play caller. And it's going to be his job to figure out a way with the guy you mentioned, AJ Brown, and the new additions to put together an offense, a passing offense that can be much better than last year and representative more of a playoff caliber team. And so that means it's not just about designing an offense. Every season has ups and downs and pitfalls, and you see a couple of teams twice now, not only just in your division, but for example, you're going to play the Lions. So they saw what you did last year. So it's really going to be up to him to be able to create on a weekly basis, a game plan and make the calls within the game that not only get his quarterback in a good rhythm. That's remember Andy Reid, what we said about him as a play caller. He was so good because he knew how to get Donovan going early on. And if he didn't, he figured out ways in the game to sort of get Donovan to a better place.
So do you know what those throws were? See, because Jaws and Cosell
slants over the middle. There were slants and dump offs.
Everything quick, right?
Yep,
so
get the
they
ball
play a quick game with him. Get it out, get him comfortable, get it out early. Don't let him think. Just get him accurate. Right. Get him accurate, get him comfortable. That's exactly what you were talking about. And that goes to week 1 against Atlanta last season, where his accuracy was great. I know Greg was laughing when he said this. Cosell said on our show, he goes, it was like layup throws. You can't miss these.
Yeah.
That's good coaching. Just get him comfortable, get him feeling. Unfortunately, it didn't carry over to the next game.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't play well against the Niners, but that's good coaching. Like you got to know what you have. And then you build on it once you progress. Okay, he's accurate here. Let's go to the mid level. he's good here. Let's take our shots. Unfortunately, what happened is Sirianni went from point A to point C instead of going to point B, and that was a mistake.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. So, again, I know I could say Sirianni because he's the head coach, but I'm talking about the in-game play caller, the cat and mouse that's going to go on. I think that's something we're going to pay attention to. Maybe now it won't be obvious week 1 or week 2, but as the season goes on, as teams adjust to what the Eagles are doing, and as the Eagles have to adjust to what teams are doing, he's got kind of this dual responsibility of being able to know his quarterback and how to get his quarterback warmed up and ready to go. And then he's got to know how to make this pass offense counter what the defense is going to try to do to them on a week to week basis. So now that we know it's on Shane Steichen, and it's not like Shane came here with some amazing reputation, like a Josh McDaniels like reputation. In fact, what we knew about him was that he was coming from San Diego or LA, where Herbert had a nice first season, but Brandon Staley opted not to retain him. Brandon Staley brought in a different offensive coordinator, and you would wonder, well, why didn't he retain Shane Steichen? So that's all we had to operate off of. So yes, we saw their offense last year. We know what it was. We know what it should be this year. He's a big part of that. So that's why I put it on him. The same way we talk about Jonathan Gannon, right?
Right. But let me get back to Steichen. What I would add is if you look at 2017, the Eagles were so much matchup driven in that season. They put bullseye in corners. They were going after him. We'll talk to DiFilippo about this, but we'll see if he'll confirm it. But I know that year that they were going after Talib, who was with Denver then. There might have been someone they destroyed Denver, destroyed Chicago here in Philly. And that's coaching. This is where Steichen's got to make his money. And Sirianni in his ear and all the coaches have input. Because in 2017, yes, Doug called the plays, Peterson called the plays, but it was Mike Rowe and Frank Reich, I think, doing third down. I think DiFilippo had red zone. John could confirm that for us.
That's correct. I believe you're right about that.
And they were so in rhythm. They had the number 1 red zone offense. Their third down offense was terrific. There's simpatico. They figured out what those guys, as you said, and you're right. By the way, AJ Brown, I think he's more talented than Jeffrey. I know Jeffrey's still a good football player then. I'll take AJ Brown any day over Alshon. No offense to Alshon. Alshon in his heyday was a good player. AJ Brown's actually better, I think.
I think we've had this discussion before. I mean, Alshon once had a 1,400-yard season.
I hear you,
but pretty damn good.
I know, but Brown's subject because of Derrick Henry. You're going to hide the quarterback when you have Derrick Henry. They won't let him throw the 10.
No, that's fair. You could argue that there's potential there for him to have that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Look, the one thing I can't get past with AJ, I'll let you finish, is that, and it's not a knock. Trust me. It's just some things that we think about in this business is why the Titans didn't extend him. Why did they feel like he was expendable and they would just draft a replacement? I can't
clearly his knee
wrap my head around that. What's that?
Clearly the knee issue.
I mean, is that it? Just the knee? I mean, the knee made him miss a few games, but I mean, it's not like he was out for the half.
He had scopes on both knees 2 years ago.
Right.
He's missed. He's only played. This is his 4th year, right? 19. Yeah,
this will be his 4th year.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, but he's missed significant time. It's not like he missed a full season, but he's missed enough time, and you worry because Brown confirmed they made an offer,
right?
And he said if they would have went just to this point, like he forget the number that he uses, he didn't want to be traded. He liked playing for the Titans.
Of course, yeah. Well, so that'll be in the back of my mind. I mean, do they know something more about his medical history than?
And Roseman said they were fine with the medicals.
Okay.
He was asked that. Yeah. At the press conference that he had, he was asked about it and they knew about it. They got the medical stuff. So the thing though on Steichen before we move on here is he has to understand how to use AJ Brown correctly. That's part of coaching. Like I'm sure they've done this, go over the tape. What routes does he like? Now that Devontae Smith's not their number 1 pass target, most likely, how does his role change? This is a lot of gymnastics here for these coaches. Quez Watkins' role is going to change now. He's going to be, we'll get to him in a minute. His role's going to change now. He won't have to play as much. Dallas Goedert doesn't have to deal with Ertz anymore. Understanding how to use these players is coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And as we said, as we started this show in 18, where Doug Peterson started to fail was understanding how to use personnel.
Yeah.
He struggled sometimes doing that. And sometimes I think the staff that he assembled after Reich left, DeFilippo left, and others left, I just think that he kind of lost his touch a little bit.
Yes.
We'll see if he can regain it with Jacksonville, but that's part of coaching, putting your players in position to make plays.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. All right. So those were our offensive selections. You want to go over to defense real quick?
Yeah, I would say on defense, and I'm gonna. This is a tough one. This one's obvious. Now we haven't talked about this guy a lot, but we know it's going to have a major role. Sam Reddick is so important because this defensive coordinator is not very aggressive. He likes to win with scheme and whatever fronts. They're going to run a lot of different stuff, so we'll see what it looks like in training camp. But Reddick was signed for one reason: to rush the passer.
Yep.
He's got to have an unbelievable amount of pressures and sacks for that, and hurry, whatever you want to call them. He's got to be a major impact player. He's got to earn that $15 million a year contract. We know he plays with a motor. They haven't had anyone like this guy, but he's got to be given a chance to rush. If he is, and he's the impact that they think he's going to be, this defense is going to be real interesting because it's really talented right now. It went from being not just the coaching where you could question the D coordinator with his scheme, but they went from not having great depth, being off-foot linebacker, having not good number 2 corner, to having, as we just discussed some minutes ago, potentially a great front 4 or 3 or the 34 front when they run it. There could be really terrific inside linebacker. So I just think, like, right now, it's not just Gannon, it's his staff. Because remember, now they've divvied up the duties. I think they've got 2 linebacker coaches now, one for inside and one for outside.
Yes. Well, no, it's they have an inside linebackers coach, and then they have the outside linebacker / edge rusher coach, right?
Oh,
That's
okay.
Washburn, I think.
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah
So that
Washburn?
could mean, right. So that could be BGs, all the DNs,
Right.
and all the stand-up linebackers. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
go ahead.
and then Denard Wilson got a new title. I didn't write it down. Someone told me he got and I don't know why this happened. I know he's very well respected. Apparently he's one of their best assistant coaches, offense or defense. But maybe another team came after him. I have no idea, but they gave him, he might have got D-backs coach / passing game coordinator, something.
Yeah,
like that.
it was that. I think passing game coordinator.
Something like that.
Right.
But he's there's no complaints now. I from what we understand, they felt a little hamstrung with Stephen Nelson because he's done run all that well. Tough guy, smart guy, physical, but he's not explosive. Where Bradbury's longer, you could do more. So just defensive staff now has some challenges here, I would say, overall. But Reddick, to me, is so important to what they do. And number 2, I'm going to go out on a limb here. This is sort of ridiculous for me to say because the guy's a rookie. But I believe Nakobe Dean's going to have a major season. I can't see defensive rookie of the year. That's a little strong. But I believe, based on what we've known about him, even before the draft, and our research on him, he can blitz. He's physical. He's smart. He's tough. He's a coach's dream. He's accountable. He's a Nick Saban guy, but he didn't play for Nick Saban. He played for Kirby Smart. This guy is super special as a talent. I know that he's not super athletic. That's part of the reason why he dropped from late first, early second to third. It's because of his run up to the pre-draft where he had a bad pro day and all this, and teams held it against him. Fine. He just got lucky.
Right.
We know they've got some minor injuries, which you outlined for us after the draft about what were some of the issues about injuries where he didn't miss time, but teams red flagged him for certain stuff. That's part of it. But this guy is so talented and brings more physicality, more toughness, more smarts. I believe he's going to make a major impact here. I know it's I'm going out on a limb here as a rookie, but hell, I don't care. I think the guy's going to be pretty special.
Well, I mean, he kind of has to. First of all, I agree with you 100% on Reddick. If you ask me about any single player on defense that has to be what they're supposed to be for this defense to be good, I would say Hassan Reddick, because he's being really asked to do one thing, right? Rush the passer the way you have the last 2 years.
Quarterback.
Absolutely. Use that explosive speed off the edge, intimidate the quarterback, and hopefully some of your pass rushes and sacks will lead to turnovers, because that's my number 2 thing. And it's hard to just find one guy, but somebody has to be more of a turnover producer on this team. And I say that because last year, Darius Slay had 3 touchdowns. Last year, he had 3 touchdowns last year. He has 4 his entire career. That means 3.
Wow.
75% of his takeaways or touchdowns, I should say, came last year. I think it's unrealistic to expect he's going to have that many touchdowns. Now, he might have a lot of interceptions, but who knows? But they've got to turn the ball over more. So who did he have? One against Denver. He had one against the one against New Orleans right before halftime.
Oh, that was with Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, Siemian. He kind of baited him into that throw. And Denver, New Orleans. Then there was one more. I can't remember which game. But the point is, I can't expect for him to have 3 touchdowns again on defense. But
fluky.
Yeah, you need somebody to be more of an interceptor, a takeaway guy. So whether that's Nakobe Dean, your guy, whether it's Kaiser White, somebody who's rangy, you can run, Bradbury, who has a good track record of interceptions as well. It's got to be someone. But somebody on this defense has to be, or collectively, they've got to do a better job of creating turnovers.
That could be coached. I know that Jim Schwartz said he would talk about it. You can't. He would always complain that
up and down, it's cyclical. Yeah,
where you can't manufacture them, you can't get out of structure and all that.
Right.
But Jordan Hicks did it. He had the one monster year, and by the way, it wasn't fluky. Those were big time plays. It was all over the football, super athletic. Unfortunately, you got hurt a lot. But Jordan Hicks did it one year where he got a whole bunch of plays.
Right.
So it could happen. Hicks, you could argue before all the injuries when he was younger, was maybe a better athlete. But Nakobe Dean is a playmaker. He's just and I know that he doesn't like the blitz much, Gannon, but I hope that he lets him do it, because they can do some special things if Gannon is willing to be a little bit more aggressive. They could do some special things here.
They absolutely could do good things. All right. We're going to get to we'll finish off with sort of our sleeper underrated player type of category here. And before we do that, let me tell you about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Let's pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you stop in to Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You will get a great deal.
And all right, guess what?
What's that?
Real quick. Mm-hmm. You want to? I've said this for months now. This is the best time in our lifetime to sell a car. You could also buy a car online at skymotorcars.com, and remember, they ship across the country. You cannot believe where they sell cars to people live in California. They ship it. People will drive in from Detroit. I've sold these stories on their IG where people will drive in because they have one of the best used car dealerships in the country, Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, by the way, right off 202. I've been there a bunch of times. Look at their service record. It's incredible. They're phenomenal. Brett Scholder and his crew do a great job, and I trust them. I've done business with them. Mm-hmm. They just do a great job. I would absolutely use them.
Nice. All right. Like we say, stop in Route 202. Is that called Concord Pike out there?
Yes, I know. It's funny because it is true. You're right. Concord Pike. If but because of Delaware, working for the Delaware News Journal.
Right. I didn't know if it was still called Concord Pike when you go.
No one calls it. It's like
what Westchester Pike.
Some routes. Right. Which is like Route 3 is Westchester Pike, right?
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's Route 3. But
Okay.
people like the Schuylkill 76.
Yeah.
I call it Schuylkill. Some people call it 76.
I call it hell on earth.
I know. I take it once every 5 years. I will do everything. Why would anyone take it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Thank God for the
I can't believe in 2022 we still have not figured out a way to alleviate traffic with either like bi-level roadways or something like
back
something, just something that would alleviate traffic a little more. Anything.
But I'll say this for
super highways.
Living what's that?
Like super highways in Dallas. Anything.
Oh well, yeah, but see, in LA, all the highways, most of them are 5 lanes.
Yeah,
and they have the most ridiculous traffic. Like those of you in LA who are watching now, you already know this, but one of the things that I just don't understand, people, the locals have explained it to me. It could be 11 a.m. where there should be no traffic.
Right.
10 a.m. Okay, well past rush hour. All 5 lanes are filled on the 405. Like, why?
I don't get it.
I don't
know.
The too many overpopulation. That's what the locals tell me. Because I'm literally, the Chargers and Rams camps are 10 minutes from each other. Okay, there should be no traffic. There's traffic. Middle of the day, 1 o'clock.
Oh, that's awful. I would pull my hair out. What's left of it?
I could never move to LA. I don't know how people deal with it. Anyway.
All right. So as we move on, some underrated players. So give me who you think isn't getting enough kind of ink, pub, whatever exposure as someone who's going to play a major role.
You can't say major. I would.
No. You're right. No, I'm sorry. A better role than people are expecting.
Exactly. That's the way I look at it. So Quez Watkins, I know a lot of people. There's some closet Watkins fans. There are a lot of people very quietly. Hey, you guys aren't talking about him. Well, here's the thing. Goddard signs his extension. Brown is here. He signed a new deal. Devontae Smith is going to be a major part of it. There's just not enough footballs to go around. However, Watkins is different from everyone they have as a pass target. He's their one deep threat. And he's not a small guy. He's got good enough size. And he's starting to grow up, mature. Like he had major issues with maturity a couple years ago. He's starting to understand what it's like to be a professional. And this is his 3rd year of his 4-year rookie deal. This is a big year for him. He'll be sort of what they call a rotational deep threat. It's a guy that comes off the bench, doesn't play a lot of snaps. You kind of know what his role is when he comes in. And here's what they're going to do. You're going to see on the field at the same time, Brown, Smith, Watkins, and Goddard. Who are you going to cover?
I'm gonna just zero blitz and hope I get to the quarterback.
and how about this? Gainwell's an outlet.
Well, Gainwell probably would have fallen into the category that I would have. You're talking about Quez Watkins. I think.
Yeah,
Gainwell.
This is Gainwell's more on Steichen and Sirianni to a lesser extent. They've got to figure it out with him. They already know what Watkins can do. We know that. We saw it last season. But he has got something. The other guy, like Devontae Smith, can run, no question. They've got to get. To me, this staff is lucky that they have AJ Brown and Goddard, because Goddard is a seam breaker. He gives and Grant Calcaterra, though he's still got to make the team. He could offer them when they go 11 personnel or even 10. He could be an X receiver. They could do whatever they want to do with him because he's super athletic. So they've got optionality here, man. They've got a lot. This staff, they should thank this front office. They've got a lot to work with here. There are no excuses here. The quarterback, we understand he's under a lot of pressure here. They can't be held back by the quarterback. They've got to call the game like they like. And if you can't do it, then go to the Minshew. Right. Because there's too much talent here.
Well, I'm just evaluating of what they have right now. If they stay true to form, which we don't know yet because they might change as a
in terms of running it?
Yeah. If they're still
they're changing.
No, I don't mean ratio. I just mean if the snaps are last year it was 2 people. They have 2 running backs. That's all they use.
Yes.
Really, is 2 running backs.
Yeah.
If that is the same going forward, even though they're running fewer, if they're still using 2 running backs, it's Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell.
Yes.
With Boston Scott as the 3. That's the way I see it.
Most likely.
Until I see something that makes me think differently. And I saw how they wanted to get Gainwell involved early and often last year, how they used him as a red zone back, which is sort of
goal line
given his goal line back, which is strange given his dimensions. So I don't think in year 2 they're going to be continuing to do a slow build. I think they're going to want to see him take a next step. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a bigger role than you might think in this offense coming up, and especially knowing that Miles Sanders can miss time with injuries. And Miles might get himself in hot water if he doesn't, kind of keep his comments and about opportunities and all-star teams in check a little bit. So
I get it. It's a talk radio subject, the all-star team comment.
the all-star team I didn't care as much about, but the whole opportunities thing, you got to be, you have to be healthy and durable to get your opportunities.
He's got, exactly. I saw the quote out there. What was it like? I'm going to be, what did he say? Like,
he said, he said, what the big, somebody asked him, John Clark, what's the thing for you this year? And he said, consistency. He said, I got to be more consistent, which is fair and fine. But then he goes, but I got to be honest, it's about opportunities. So he kind of made it seem like what's holding him back from consistency is the opportunity to touch the ball. But, you can't talk about that without your injuries and why, and some of your fumble problems as well. And not catching the ball issue and issues catching the ball. Yeah.
I'm just going by what you said. And I've been a major supporter of Sanders.
Same here.
The guy's been an underachiever. Like, he's really talented. Injury, got to stay on the field.
Call him underachiever.
Well, no, but their expectation for this kid were like not quite Zeke Elliott, but
where did they draft him? First round or second round?
Second round. That's
go look at running backs drafted in the second round. They're all over the place. I mean, if
they don't see it like that,
I know, but then they over expected. Then you get what you pay for. He's a second round pick.
But look what he look. But I look at it this way. Look what he did the first year. Weren't you tantalized? Like, wow. Look at the catches. Look at we didn't know this. Remember, you pointed out like he didn't do this at Penn State.
Yeah.
He looked really good in the year one.
Like, but that's not who you are. It could be a flash, like Travis Fulgham flashed. I mean, he's, Well,
that's a different kind of, right. But you saw enough. Okay, this kid's got really big time talent.
Yeah.
But he can't sustain it. Now, he's like, well, what opportunities is he talking about though? What does he want?
That's my point, is that he might be talking himself into it. My point is, if that's even on your mind right now, and you've talked about this being a personal year, like I just wish his mind was clear, fresh, carry the ball, do your job, help the team win, be successful, you'll be rewarded. But if you're internalizing some of this, it's my last year, I have no contract. In order to get a good contract, I need more carries, I need more touches, I need more opportunities. If that stuff's on your mind, you're already losing starting out the gate. You got too much on your mind. Point. And if you're already someone with ball security issues and you're taking that onto the field, I do worry a little bit about his mentality and how that's going to manifest going into the year, which is sort of why I think that Gainwell could play a bigger role than even we're considering right now.
Well, the thing that Sanders is, when he was a factor in the past game, that guy, I mean, that play against Minnesota in 19 all the way downfield, like he definitely, I mean, he's got some special ability.
Yeah.
But he's got to understand, like, dude, you've had 3 years. You didn't score a touchdown last season. Now, part of it, yes, Gainwell got those goal line carries, which nobody saw coming. To this day, I still don't understand it. Now, he converted pretty well.
Right.
But hey, the coaches clearly didn't trust you. You would have been in.
Yeah. No, that's fair. He's got some stuff to work out.
And Boston Scott's been a good football player. This is the giant killer. They by the way, the Eagles gave him a really nice guarantee on a short deal. I mean, they gave him 1.1 million of his $1.5 million base salary. It's fully guaranteed. That's for a third string, potentially third string. It's not decided yet who's the two is. You and I agree it should be Gainwell, but that'll be a competition. That's a pretty good guarantee for a backup running back,
right?
Who might not have much of a role, so they clearly think highly of him,
right?
And as you said, you make a good point, because what if this year they say, you know what, Miles, we like you, but we weren't here when you were drafted. Gainwell's our guy. You're still their starter, but we want Gainwell to be a big factor. Miles is SOL, man.
Yeah.
He could be out of luck.
They're not going to wait. Like, if Miles Sanders fumbles against the Lions in the fourth quarter of a close game, and even if the Eagles win, they're not going to sit around and, coddle Miles and tell him things. They're going to give the ball to Kenneth Gainwell the next time. That's how I see it. I could be wrong, but, you normally with a young player, you're nurturing, you give second chances, you throw your arm around that guy. When you're 4-year veteran in year 4 and they already got guys looking over your shoulder, you don't feel that kind of love and nurturing from the coaching staff, especially when it's not the staff that picked you. So it'll be kind of fascinating to see what they do with this running game.
And one thing, he is capable of having a finishing and rushing this year, like top 5, top 7. That's how gifted he is.
Absolutely.
But he just staying on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I know Cosell disputes this. He says that people think he dances. He said that's false.
I don't think he dances either. I think that's overblown too. I think sometimes he doesn't follow the blocking pattern the way it's intended, but it's not because he's just going one way when the blocking scheme might be another way. Yeah.
Right. Because if it's just going to A gap, he goes in the C gap.
Right.
That's what you're talking about. No, he's also had a bunch of long runs in his career.
Yeah.
Shows his explosiveness. The Eagles know what they have in him, but and Sanders is right. If that's what he thought, he needs to be more consistent. However he views that. I wonder what does that mean?
I agree. Good
His
question.
approach,
Good question to ask him next time we get him in front of in a press conference.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's just move. Let's finish it out. Defensive underrated / sleeper guy. Oh, by the way, I would volunteer on offense Jalen Reagor as a submission, only because nobody expects anything of him anymore. But that would be kind of a cheat. So anyway, go to defense, and I just wanted to throw that in.
I just had someone with the Eagles say to me, he goes, "We're Rager's going to be on our team this season." I was like, "All right, want to bet on that?" The guy wouldn't take the bet. I know they're not going to cut him, but I just we've been through this 1,000 times. Okay, a little exaggeration, but he has no role. Just
right
move
now,
him.
that is true. He has no role.
Don't worry about it. Just get, if you can get a third, take it. You're not getting a second or a first.
I agree.
You know.
All right. Anyway. Defense. Who's your kind of underrated defense guy?
This is another one where you go, what does he talk? Why would he even bring this guy up? I'm doing it because I think he's going to be better than you think. I think his role is going to be a little bit bigger than we think. I'm going to go with Tartt. I'm going to go with Jaquiski Tartt.
Okay.
This just happened. Obviously, they just brought him in.
Yep.
I talked to my Niners guy, explained to me how he was used with the Niners. He was a tone setter.
Yep.
He's a good leader. You can't measure this, but he did play with Bradbury in college, so that they're back together in the same secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Harris, yes, is technically the starter. Who said? By the way, who's to say that Tartt can't take the job at some point? Maybe he's competition at least. Maybe he wins it.
Yeah.
I feel like he'll be an impact on 4 to 5 games this season. You will go, wow, he really you can measure it by our eyes. Where you go, wow, he set the he made some plays in the secondary.
Right. That's a good one. I like that. I mentioned mine already. I think this is going to be a pretty good year from a playing time standpoint for Milton Williams. I think he can contribute because he's an ideal player for a multiple front defense because he can play end and tackle, and because they're good. We know that they're a little longer in the tooth there with some of their guys like BG and Fletcher Cox, and he's a young guy who had coming off a pretty good rookie year. So I can see him getting into 45, maybe 50% of the snaps, and we'll see what he does.
That many?
Well, if Beau Allen played 43 on the 2017 team, and he only plays one spot, then I feel like and again, injuries I think are going to factor in here. I think Milton Williams will be ready to take that mantle.
Okay, that's a lot. I mean, they got to play. Jordan Davis has got to play. They'll figure out once he gets his weight under control. We know it's on the right path. Once the coaches feel comfortable, he's going to have to play. They got a lot of linemen, man. They've got a lot of players in the front seven, however they want to line it up.
Right.
So what's funny is we get out of the show today. For other people say we're so negative, especially you. You were actually positive today.
I'm pretty positive. I'm not negative. I'm really not.
Your fan club,
I think it's the same 2 or 3 people though. That's they just they've got it in their head that the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl every year, and if I don't agree, I'm negative.
You're a hater.
Yeah, I'm a hater. So I think I said I expect the team's floor is 10 or 11 wins and ceiling is 12. So I'd be an awful hater if that's
pretty good. That's pretty positive.
Yeah, I was
and what you do a good job of is you look at the possible problems.
Right.
I try
to think of what people may not generally like the whole AJ Brown thing, right? for a lot of people, it's like, great, we got this awesome player. And yes, he is. But I always like try to, well, why did another team?
Why did Tennessee move him?
You know, I just want to know why.
Absolutely fair.
Yeah, that's all. So, all right. That was a great podcast. We covered a lot of different subjects. Look forward to doing it again. The next one will drop Monday morning, and we will continue to churn out the content as we get closer to training camp. So for Adam Kaplan, I'm Jeff Mosier. Thanks for listening to Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And a big thanks, of course, to our producer, Tyler Strasser, doing a great job producing ITB. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.